Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp, Paul Tripoli. My good buddy, Cliff Early. The big red dog is in the house. We got special guests today. We got Joe Papaleo. Did I say that right? Joe Papaleo.
Yeah, close enough. Papaleo. Yeah.
Papaleo. I'm Italian.
Papaleo, like the Pope.
Papaleo. Yeah. All right, Vittorio Petrara. Thanks, V, for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to have a blast. All right, let's start at the beginning. You guys have so much to talk about, but, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I want you guys, V, why don't you start out, talk about your mom and dad and growing up in the north side Italian section of Syracuse. Any brothers or sisters you had?
So, my family, my father actually came from Italy in the 60s and 70s with my grandparents and some of my uncles. My mother was born here, but her mother was born in Italy as well. First, they actually moved to the north side. I know a lot of Italian people, when they first came to this country, they grew up on the north side. And actually, I did myself. I ended up going to Our Lady of Pompeii. That is very close to where we always hang out. And as we kind of grew, we kind of branched out to North Syracuse, and we kind of lived there our whole life. And after elementary school, I ended up going to Bishop Ludden. Played soccer there for 4 years. Played against Joe, actually. Joe coached against me. And then I went on to college, went to Mohawk Valley, did there for about 2 years, went to Lemoyne for a little bit, and then started playing soccer after that for professional teams out here in Syracuse and in Utica. And from there on, I just started coaching, and that's about it.
Wow, man, you're so humble. Two-time All-State, All-American your senior year. That's it's quite a rise. Talk about your college experience, some of your coaches that were like, you know, that you really learned from. I know you probably learned from some other guys there in Syracuse, but what did your high school and college coach teach you?
Well, basically, for my high school coach, it's actually it's a funny story. He's from Columbia. He knew my dad. His name was Oscar Vergara, and he kind of pushed my father to bring me to Ludden when I was younger. So I went and checked that out, and we always lived in the North Syracuse district, but I only went to Ludden because my sisters went there. I have 2 older sisters, by the way. So I ended up going there because they did. And he taught me a lot when I was younger. He kind of humbled me really quick. You know, when you're younger and you're playing club soccer and you have that little cocky attitude, people kind of bring you down to earth. And he kind of taught me a lot of things along the way and kind of made me realize a lot. And he kind of shaped me as I got older, along with my club coach, Tony Reverso. He was one of my father's best friends, and they came from Italy together. He was actually in his wedding. So I was around 2 guys that were great, bringing me up. And, you know, I kind of grew up with that little cocky attitude as a teenager does. So they helped me tremendously when I went on to college and played. And they taught me a lot as far as skill and developing my game when I was younger. And going off to college, I played for a guy named Bob Gould at Mohawk Valley. He was there for a long time. And, you know, just playing for him, it was a great experience. You know, you're around different coaching styles and stuff. So they kind of teach you a lot of what they were taught. And, you know, just being around and accepting all of that kind of shaped me into, you know, where I turned to as far as soccer and kind of shaped my future as what I wanted to do. And I'm very grateful for it. And obviously I've known Joe for a while, and Joe tried getting me to come over to CBA, which I wish, you know.
That's true. Paul, they say that CBA recruits. We don't recruit. I would love to have Vic there. Tremendous player, just a tremendous player.
Wow. Yeah, you were too. But how did you get into coaching? I just want to let people know that CBA, you won 2 state titles, back-to-back state titles at your alma mater in Henniger, and you know, I mean, to do that, I think, what was his record? 132 and 6 and 4.
Yeah. How do you lose less games in that entire stretch than you did as a sophomore goalie, and you still made All-City?
Yeah, we were horrible. I loved it. I loved it because I was a goalie, so I loved it. 20 shots, 25 shots a game, and
Right, left.
yeah. To me, I don't want to win 1-0 and get 2 shots. Let's go. So we weren't very good. A lot of the North Side players that grew up there, ethnic players, Greek, Italian, the Yugoslavians, obviously not Yugoslavians anymore, but a lot of them went to the public schools. I was the first one to go to CBA out of a group of soccer players, and then little by little more players came. We did okay, but my senior year, I was a kid with the guys at the coffee shop. We beat Henniger both times my senior year, and Henniger was the team that beat back then. Growing up, I played with the men's team since I was 14. So those guys, they're like Vic says, I was humbled very early in life. I never got a chance to be anything because at 14 years old, I was playing with men, and being the goalie, obviously I make a mistake. It's 1-0 for the other team. So it prepared me for the next step in my life. College was easier and professional level. I've seen it all since I was 14 years old. Those men really helped me a lot. And like Vic says, the best part about it, guys, we still hang out together. We go to the coffee shop on the North Side. It's a fantastic place. We just really enjoy the company. And I've got a lot of people there I have to thank for my career, and I get to see them almost every day. It's great.
Well, is it true that Paul Rachetta scored 11 goals on you? It's not true.
Not even close. No,
not even close. But wasn't Paul? Wasn't he like a star?
He never moved.
And he was like a player coach. I mean, he knew sometimes more than the coaches because soccer wasn't real popular back when you started.
Absolutely. The Henniger team, I'll tell a quick story about the Henniger team. Being from the North Side, being Italian, being 14, playing with those guys that were in high school or just getting done with. A lot of them were still in high school. They were 4 or 5 years older than me. So in 7th grade, I remember going to a game. By the end of the game, the cops were there. There was a fight with the referee. The goalie on the other team was knocked out. My dad put me in the car and says, "You're not going to Henniger. You're going to CBA." That was the end of the whole thing, and there was no chance of me going to Henniger. I love my time at CBA. I wanted to always go there because it was kind of like being like Notre Dame. They either everybody likes you or everybody hates you.
Right,
so I loved my time at CBA, and I was fortunate enough to coach after. It was just everything worked perfect, absolutely perfect.
Are you still coaching, Joe?
Oh yeah, yep. This will be year 30. Yeah, 30.
Oh my God. V, you're going to turn 42 and 43 in a couple days, in July 5th, right? Did you play pro soccer till you were 40?
I did, yeah. I actually played again last year. I actually came back and started training with the Utica club, and there was a second club that I started training with that's affiliated with them, and I actually was playing in games with them as well. One of the reasons why I stopped was because I formed my own club to help out a lot of the youth around here and try to do our own thing and take that direction in life. So I kind of had to take a break at playing, and it was definitely a tough decision, but it more or so wasn't about me anymore. I had my time. I'm trying to do what's best for these kids that I coach. But still, it's still there, and I still plan on playing. I'm just not sure at what level. If I'm going to come back and play at that level, I might try again. But now that things are kind of calming down, it's something that I've been thinking about for sure.
Did you take your girls' team to Florida recently and win a showcase girls soccer showcase tournament in Florida?
Yeah, actually, we went down there in January, and we went down to the ESPN Worldwide Sports Complex, this Disney showcase, which was it was a great experience, and they ended up winning. Their age group is 2010, so they're a bunch of 15-year-olds, and it was a great experience. But we've actually had a lot of success besides that. We won a tournament down in Virginia. It's called the Jefferson Cup. It's actually huge. It's probably top 5 tournament in the United States. And we found success there. It was great. We won that. And then we did another tournament in Philadelphia. It's called the FC Delco Players Cup. We ended up winning that as well. So we found a lot of success this year in things that we've done tournament-wise and showcases. And we do travel all over. We went to Ohio, and that was in May, I want to say. And we ended up winning that as well. So we've been successful this year, and it's been a great experience. In 2 weeks, I actually have to go to Minnesota. So that might end my season with them, but it's been incredible.
It's been 40 years since the U.S. has hosted the World Cup. Coach Joe Papa was just ending his professional career and going into coaching. You were in that 12 to 15 age group in 1994 when we hosted it. There was a lot of talk back then about what the United States had to do to be more competitive in world soccer. Starting with Coach Joe, how much do you think we have evolved in that 30 to 40 years, and where are we headed?
I think we've done really well at the international level. I know Vic knows how I feel about this. I think being an American male soccer player right now is not a good time. You have all international players come in playing college ball here at community level, community college level, at Division III levels. I just noticed a local university just signed a 50-year player who's 26 years old from Germany. For a non-revenue sport, guys, it makes no sense to me. If it's football, basketball, absolutely pays the bills. But for soccer, there's no chance for our kids to really, all the kids, girls with Vic's side's a little different. 15, 17 years ago, when I did the travel stuff with boys, 16 out of my 18 kids played college. We're very fortunate in New York. We have a very good Division III, SUNY school, conference, great education, good cost. Cost is, you can afford it. But even now, I've had two players that were all state and all East region, so one step away from All-American. The one kid decided, you don't want him to go to Providence instead of going to play at a state school. The other one is playing at a state school, and he was first or second team All-State. It's hard to compete against 21-year-old freshman when you're 17, 18 years old. I don't care who you are. So it's tough. I don't know in the long run if it's going to help us. I don't know in the long run if that's going to help develop American soccer when, again, college level. To me, going that route, I wouldn't have changed anything. I always say right country, wrong sport. It just back then, the 70s and 80s, being drafted by the New York Cosmos. Back then, the Cosmos were the Yankees of soccer, one of the top 5 clubs in the world. And when I met with the general manager, when I had to decide, do I stay indoor with Pittsburgh, or are they going to buy my contract? He honestly said to me, we're losing money. We've lost, at that time, $6 to $10 million with Giorgio Chinaglia, averaging 40,000 people a game. I don't know how much longer we're going to be outdoor. So that was the reason why I went indoor. And then when I played, there was no outdoor, realistically. I mean, the indoor game was almost neck and neck with hockey, believe it or not. We were owned by Edward DeBartolo. And so the Penguins and the Pittsburgh Spirit, we were treated as equals. Our top player, again, this is 1983, 84. Our top soccer player was making probably $200,000 a year. And the top hockey player at that time probably was making about 4, 5, 6, maybe the top $1 million, real. And Mario Lemieux wasn't there yet. We actually outdrew the Penguins. When Cleveland at the time on a Thursday, we'd average 11,000 people a game. So my last game in Tacoma, at the Tacoma Dome, we had 27,000 people there. So it was going in the right direction. Everything was great. And the outdoor game came, which is great. I just don't know, still as a father, as a grandfather now, if my kid can go to school, get a great education, that's awesome. If he plays, that's fantastic. But I like our system when our kids were able to go to college and play. Those kids supported the colleges after. I'd really be interesting to see how many of these foreign players have given any money back to the schools. So It's a little disappointing being a male soccer player. Now, Vic's side, the girls are still, they're doing it the right way, I feel. They're using our players, they're American players, and they have an opportunity to play college.
And that was my next question. We had, for Coach V, we talked a little bit before we came on the air about the melting pot of the North Side and Ukrainians and other people coming in. I know that when I did play-by-play for Pensacola Catholic High School, we went to a Final Four in South Florida, and they were absolutely rolled. And one of the best players was like, man, I had a blast. I was watching some of the best players I've ever seen play soccer from all over the world, playing high school soccer, just running all around me. I had the best seat in the house, even though, they got mercy ruled. So it's kind of funny. So, Coach V, you're on the girls' side, but also the competition, the internationals coming in and bringing up the level of competition for American soccer and the quality of soccer, but at the same time, maybe it being a negative as far as
taking
being
away opportunities.
Too much competition for opportunities to play college soccer.
Yeah, so I do agree with that, and everything that Joe said I think was spot on. I don't really believe that we need to be going overseas to be bringing in internationals for college, rosters and games and stuff like that. I really don't see any point in that. I think we're fortunate enough to live in this country to have that pathway of having club soccer, and as we grow, have a goal of going to college, whether it's D1, D2, or D3. And I think that's every kid's goal as they start to grow. They kind of figure out which route they want to choose. And I do think it's a bit unfair that, like Joe pointed out, you're going into the international pool and you're putting in a 24, 25-year-old against a 17, 18-year-old. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But, as they grow, if it's something that they're comfortable with and they can handle, I mean, yeah, they're going to be playing against older kids, but not something like that in college. I think once you look at stuff like that, you're looking at international levels where age isn't really a factor. On the girls' end, I would say internationally, yeah, we can bring in international players, but I do truly believe the best soccer, the best talent is here in the United States. Sure, it's grown a tremendous amount internationally, and you're seeing a lot of the world start to catch up, because I think at one point they saw the gap between the United States women and all of these other European, South American countries. So I think they started to kind of concentrate more on that development internationally more. But I do think a lot of these international students have the goal to come and play here because they know this is where the best of the best is. If you were to ask me, would I want to take my girls to an international tournament? Sure, it'd be a great experience. But in my eyes, I don't think it makes sense where I can stay here and kind of get that better competition and better play for my players as opposed to traveling overseas, spending all that money. It's more of a vacation experience type thing. So I don't find it truly beneficial for them to do it. I think it's a great experience and a good option for these people to have internationally to come over. But I don't see it as much on the girls' end as I do on the boys' end. I think you're going to get more of the draw on the boys' end because I think there's more talent in that, in a pool where there's more selection of players. On the girls' end, we have all of that talent here. So I don't see our coaches going overseas even to go recruit, a lot of these international players. But it is fair to say they are starting to do a lot better and catch up with us on that end as far as the women play.
Vic, Eric Walanda's got a podcast, and he was talking about, remember, those guys that come over here are the people that played academy there and failed. So
right.
There's nobody coming here to play that could make it in Norway, Sweden, Italy, England. They're coming here because they didn't make it there. So
right.
on the guy side. So what's the point? Like, I had a good conversation with one of the university coaches here, and he said, Joe, I would love to have a 17-year-old kid from your high school come, but I can't compete against a 22-year-old kid from Germany,
right.
and put your kid out there. And I can't blame it. It's his job, but again, we go back to it. It's a tough situation. Actually, that quote, that comment about it's a tough time to be an American soccer player, that was on the ACC Soccer Network at halftime of one of the games. So it's not just me being bitter or whatever. It's the facts out there right now. It just, to Vic's point, the women, they really don't need to. They got some good players there. Obviously, the gap's tightening up now. We're not winning 6-7-0 anymore because they are putting some money into the women's sports in Europe, especially in soccer. So you're seeing that development there. But for the guys, it's a bitter subject for me because our kids don't have the same opportunities that we had 15 years ago. So in the long run, your question, sorry, is it going to help soccer? I don't know. Look at the guys we get here. They consider our league a vacation league. The top players come here when their career is over. So what's the difference if we get a South American guy from Colombia that's a decent player, or a kid that went through the system, played at Villanova, and decided, I'm not going to be on Wall Street for the next 5-6 years. I'm going to play. That's not happening. That's not happening. That guy from Philadelphia, the guy from Philadelphia that's not a big soccer guy, isn't going to tell the difference with that 13-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid watching the game. It's just disappointing. I think we had, the outdoor league now, I think the level is definitely picked up, but I was hoping to see more Americans play, to be honest with you.
My cousin played at Yale in the late 90s, and I asked him what he thought about if he had a question. His idea was, do y'all think the game is as boring as it used to be? His point being that it's more penile. there's more passing, there's less creativity. It's almost like there's no shot clock in basketball, and you're waiting for not the guy from the Syracuse Nationals to start the shot clock, but for the other team to make a mistake.
Well, you're absolutely
yes,
right. Like me and Vic, and I know there's a certain style. I'm old school. These teams that knock the ball around in the back and hold it. I would love to see the statistics to see how many goal opportunities they created by doing that, rather than being very direct like we used to be, compared to how many goals they give up or opportunities. I've watched it just recently on both the Gold Cup and the World Cup of club soccer that's going on right now. Teams losing the ball. You're playing Manchester City. You're some team from New Zealand. You don't have the talent level to play that way, but they just play all the same way. And then when they need a goal, they start playing like we used to play, and they get a chance on goal. It's almost a goal they just miss. Why don't you do that for 90 minutes?
Right.
That's where I thought indoor soccer would really take off, because you had everything in there. You had shots, you had goals, you had defense, you had saves. It was nonstop.
That's kind of how American football has, adapted over the years. It was all run 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then when the 2-minute drill was going, man, they go down and score in a 2-minute drill. Well, why don't you make every minute the 2-minute drill if you're going on there and scoring every time? And that's kind of what's happened. So it does evolve. Is there a difference between coaching the boys team and the girls team, B?
I would say definitely there is. I've coached probably all ages, from the smallest to the oldest. There is plenty of differences. Obviously, at the younger age, it's tough to kind of keep them more engaged. You're seeing a lot of kids that actually want to try and play soccer, but the commitment at a younger age just isn't there. There's so much other things that they have going on. And it's kind of funny you say that, because when Joe brought me in to coach CBA, I was coaching boys on his side. And previously, with the clubs I've coached, I've only coached boys. So when I was actually refereeing an indoor game, and the people that I coach for now, this one guy, Mike, he married one of my cousins, and another woman, her name is Andrea. They're viewing me talk to some of these players, and they were like, well, would you like to come in and try to coach the girls? And my first response was, absolutely not. There's no chance I'm coaching girls. And, it's not that I didn't want to do it, but I have more of a strong personality. So my first response was, the last thing I want to do is coach females or little girls and make them cry.
Right.
I said, I'm tense. I've coached on the boys' end. I've never coached on the girls' end. But to make a long story short, they were like, just come check out a practice, and I ended up doing it. And it was probably the best decision of my life. And I actually, it was incredible. I went and checked it out.
Did they give more effort? Did the girls give more effort than boys, or are they more conscientious, or are they, what's the difference?
So I'll say this, I've enjoyed the girls a lot, and I want to say a lot more than the boys, only because it was a switch up for me. From the ages of, I want to say 11 to about 14, 15, they give a lot more effort. It's like they have a lot more to prove, and they're more attentive. They listen better. They're, I think at that age, you're getting more from the girls. At the boys' age, like when I went and coached with Joe, I'm telling Joe, some of these kids, they're wild. They don't pay attention. They don't want to listen. And I was a boy at that age, so I'm like, I know where it's coming from.
Right.
I want to listen to my coach.
Vic, tell me your favorite saying I still use to this day with the kids. They laugh because we're joking, but Vic told me, like, before I did stuff during the off season with the kids, the modified kids, he goes, these are the dumbest, smartest kids in section 3, being a private school. And I'm like, Vic, you can't say that. I use that all the time. How is it possible that you're the smartest kids and so dumb? Well,
there's a difference. Yeah, there's a big difference between like schoolwork and knowing what to do, instincts on the field, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, or soccer, it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's a difference. There's like intelligence. I knew some kids that were C students, but they were super intelligent when it comes to the sport. And then other kids that were A+ students that didn't know anything about it.
Oh, without a doubt. I tell you, we had one. We lost an opening game, and I told the goalie, look, at that time I was 55, so about 8 years ago, I said, you know what, I would have made those saves. I would have needed some help getting up, but, we need you to make those saves. year. And he goes, okay, coach, I got it. So we're in the parking lot, and he starts walking towards me. And I go to my assistant coach, John Rashetta, who Vic knows. His brother owns the coffee shop. And he goes, I go, did I say something really bad? I thought I controlled myself. But he goes, no, you were fine. He walks up and he goes, coach, I can't make any practices. Now, we're playing Beeville and Liverpool, two biggest schools in our district, Friday and Saturday. He can't make the next practice because he's the only lifeguard left because everybody went back to school. So my assistant coach looks at me shaking his head. I go, what's up with that? What are you shaking your head for? He goes, if he's as bad a goalie as as bad as goalie as a lifeguard, someone's going to die this weekend. This is what our team knows that this is what they get. We have a lot of fun with them. I mean, they give it back to us by being Italian this and Italian that. At the end of the day, I'm fortunate enough to say at my high school, you don't go to CBA soccer. You're at a private school to get ready for the next step in your life. You're not 99% of you are not going to play in college. You know what? Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. I don't practice on weekends. You know what? You're there for education. That's the most important.
Yeah, that's a secret to being a good coach, man. You got to work them really hard, intense, and bring the enthusiasm. But you got to have a heart and hug them. You know, kick them in the butt and then hug them later.
Always.
That's a secret to a good coach because they'll know they care about you, and then they'll play hard for you.
How easy is it to pick out the future coaches? Like, could you have picked out that V was going to be a coach? I mean, there's some kids that are already coaches on the field.
Good question.
Without a doubt. I mean, V was outmanned, to say the least, when we played him. So, the team that played against him, I think, what do we have? 6 Division I players. My goalie went to Notre Dame. My, the all-time leading scorer at Lemoyne College is one of my forwards then. Two guys went to Syracuse. One went to St. Bonaventure. This is my high school team. I just rolled the ball out and watched. And poor Vic,
wasn't for me.
It wasn't nothing to do with coaching. And Vic had to try to stop us. You know what? To be honest with you, Vic, you want to tell him the score. It wasn't your fault, but the Ryan McMahon, who's the county executive, was his starting goalie. We beat him 7-0 in the sectional semifinals. So, but Vic was a player. Vic was definitely a player. I mean, we would have loved him to come to CBA, but like you said, his sisters were there. We don't. If he's happy there, he's happy there. At the end of the day, you want the best for all the kids, no matter if you know him like Vic or somebody else. Somebody asks for help from Vic. Vic would help that player out, even if she didn't play for him. And that's what it's about, coaching. You help everybody.
So to pick on your question, I do say that coaching girls now is easier. I would say that, and I actually enjoy it more. And I think they're just easier to deal with to a certain age. And then, once they all kind of mature and stuff, then it's a lot easier to deal with the boys and the girls because the girls mature a lot quicker than boys. So you're getting that from the boys back, and, you're getting all that not being so humble type attitude and stuff like that. But once they grow with you, then it's more of a pleasure to coach those boys once they get over that hump. And the girls, they're more mature and a lot easier to deal with. So, yeah, I do prefer coaching girls now, to answer your question.
To this day, Paul, I've got the best female, how do I say this, Vic, team that I coached that went the furthest in college. Every one of them, 8 out of my girls played summer soccer with FM, Fayetteville Familia Soccer. And Vic knows where I'm going with this. All 8 of them played Division I lacrosse. Not one of them played soccer. They all played lacrosse. Every single one of them. 8 of them.
That's funny.
Yeah, lacrosse is huge. It's growing down here too. Lacrosse.
My son grew up in the Tidewater area near Virginia Beach playing lacrosse and moved down here. And when I said, "Hey, they've got a new team or a club team," he's like, "Dad, that's not lacrosse. They're playing catch with nets on the end of sticks." And then he tried out for the soccer team as a 10th grader when he moved here, and he made it as a defender because of the upper body positioning of a lacrosse defender translated to soccer.
One of my best players I had was Jared Park, who played high school soccer and played lacrosse at SU, won 2 national championships. His freshman year, he wanted to play both sports. The Georgetown coach asked the soccer coach at Georgetown, "Hey, are you interested in this kid?" Soccer coach goes, "Nah, he doesn't play travel. I'm not interested. I don't know him." The following year, lacrosse coach at Georgetown walked into his office and said, "Hey, you know anything about soccer?" Jared Park was NCAA Freshman Player of the Year. So, you know what? It goes hand in hand, lacrosse, soccer, a lot of that.
What a great story. Yeah, I'm a big believer in multiple sports.
Absolutely.
Do not get specialized as a kid ever in any sport. the different movements, the different teammates, the different coaches. And plus, I think it's just beneficial for kids to play as many sports as they can growing up. And college recruiters respect that to this day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I agree with you guys. When I was younger, I also played basketball, and I was actually better at basketball than I was at soccer. And it's the truth, and my height doesn't help, but
or being Italian,
that too. I was actually approached by my varsity basketball coach. This was when I was in 8th grade, and he was telling me, if you want to play next year and you want to play varsity in 9th grade, you have to stop playing indoor soccer. So I kind of looked at him, and I looked at my father and said, I don't think I'm ready to stop playing soccer, and especially indoor. I loved indoor. Right. So my father looked at me and said, that's a decision you have to make, which I love, because I think nowadays, I think it's great for kids to play 2 sports or more. But I do think at some point parents do have to kind of ask them and hold them, accountable and make them figure out which route they want to go. Hey, what
especially when you're in high
doing?
school. Yeah, junior in high school, you pretty much know where you're what sport you're going to play. I mean, it was obvious for me.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Same thing, Paul. I was 5'11" and a half playing varsity basketball at CBA, and I'm not playing at SU. I'm not going to go to Syracuse and play. So I was like Vic. I went with I practiced. I missed varsity basketball games for soccer practice. That was my choice.
Yeah, I
did the
guess
same thing. I was supposed to go that route.
Yeah, I guess the Italians were just not very tall. I don't know, man. My father, he's if you see him sitting in a car, he looked like he's 6'7". Then he gets out of the car, he's 5'7".
Yeah. I don't want to butcher the one comedian when he makes fun about, you never hear him say pass the ball to Luigi. I forgot which one of the, when you go to a basketball game. So, we love playing it. You're right. My kids play multiple sports at CBA. All I ask for now is a little commitment to the high school team, because, we've come full circle, because 5, 6, 7 years ago, if you played elite soccer, they called it academy soccer. You weren't allowed to play high school. You were not allowed. Mm-hmm. Now I'll tell them, someone came up to me, one of the kids, great kid. He goes, Coach, first summer league game. He goes, would it be okay if I play this position and we should put so-and-so here? And I said to him, does your travel coach, do you go up to him and tell him that? And he goes, no, actually, he told me I should play defensive midfield. I said, tell your travel coach, he's training you for me. You're not playing in college. The last time you put a jersey on, it's for me at the high school. Okay? So I really don't care what he wants. Okay, and he, of course I put him there.
Yeah.
But I got to send a message and understand that you're going to pick Villanova. Nothing wrong with Alfred State, but you're going to go to college at Villanova if you have a chance, rather than a smaller school. Mm-hmm. So that's the message I try to tell the kids. That on the boys' side, the girls' side, Vic's a little different.
Well, any advice for young coaches that are just starting out? Is it
good luck.
Find a mentor or find somebody? Yeah, good luck.
Well,
I know the attitudes aren't getting any better, but
you have to go to the cafe to make a connection.
Yeah. Paul, that's a great question, because sitting down with the principal at CBA and the president, we were talking about how things have changed, and he said the days of having Coach Papaleo, Coach Dotter, Coach Walensky, 3 guys that probably, Coach Dotter just passed away. He was 80-some years old, 40-some odd years at the high school. Buddy's got me beat by, I think, 6, 7 years, maybe more. Those days are done, because they just can't put up with all the stuff that goes with it. I'm fortunate at a private school, because they can't come back with anything when I tell them, hey, you're here for school. You're not here for soccer. You're not.
Right.
You're not. If you're spending $13,000 to play soccer for me, oof, man, it's not good.
We talked about the growth of soccer in the last 30 or 40 years, especially since the World Cup in '94. So the World Cup is coming next year. Is this the perfect time for America, for the excitement level, and for soccer to take a bigger stance in American culture?
Well, Vic, I don't know about you, but I was looking forward to go to the World Cup game. I mean, these club games. Then the prices came out, and I'm telling you, unless my grandson was playing, I'll watch it on TV. They got to be reasonable. I'm not spending $200-300 to go watch.
Because you could go to either Toronto or New Jersey or where else around there.
Well, yeah,
Philadelphia, yeah.
Philadelphia,
so
as
think it's important
as Boston too. But the prices are going to be insane, like you're saying. Just to go see Sporting KC or Seattle and Zagreb or whoever's playing in the club. World Cup. It's $200 to $300 a ticket. That's crazy.
And the stands are empty. I hope it's a learning lesson for them because, the most money I think any World Cup it made, I'm not sure about Qatar and some of the latest ones, was the World Cup we did here. That's how successful it was. And I don't remember anybody complaining about the cost. So hopefully it's reasonable. You know what? Sure, Italy, Germany is going to cost you, but still, hopefully it's reasonable so people can go.
Well, the difference today is the resale market for sure than there was 30 years ago. So just keep your eye on Vivid Seats and Ticketmaster and be ready to drive the day of the game because those prices are going to drop. Tell you.
I saw that in the beginning when prices came out, people were really worried. And even FIFA, they actually started to come to the conclusions where in some areas, like Joe was saying, there wasn't any attendance, so you got to do what you have to do to sell these tickets. So they did start off at a pretty hefty price, $200-$300 a game, and people aren't going to pay that. And I do know as of late, they have been dropping tickets to try to get people in the stands because they don't want to see it as a total loss. But I will give you an example for the World Cup. I actually put myself in a drawing through FIFA. And what it looks like is, you get updates, you get emails and stuff about venues and where you can go. And it's sold out within, I want to say, a week. You can click on a city, let's say Philadelphia, and you don't know which teams are going to be playing there. So this is obviously you're getting a head start. You click on the city, you buy the city, and it's around, I want to say $300 just for the one ticket. But what they did was they gave you a ticket for maybe 2 or 3 games for the weekend. The only problem is you don't know who's going to be playing. So you're buying a venue without knowing who's going to be at that venue, as opposed to kind of waiting and seeing when the draw happens, who's going to be where. And, like you're saying, you might be paying a little bit more to go see an Italy or USA based on ticket prices. Then at that point, obviously supply and demand,
I think coaching is critical. The younger you are, okay, in any sport, middle school, high school, college, pros, it's not as important. But as U.S. soccer coaches, especially the men's team, are we heading in the right direction with him? Right? I don't know who it is.
Yeah, he started pregame to say, "I want to ask what in the world is wrong with U.S. soccer," and it's like not in the world. It's doing pretty good. There may be a lot of stuff to still improve on, but we're
still top 20. I would say still top 20. Back when I was playing, if you said 20. U.S. soccer would be top 20 down the road, would be like you're crazy. So it's a very competitive because most of the places, unless it's hockey, most of the best athletes are playing soccer. So if you take the best athletes we got playing football and basketball and all the other sports, track, and they just focused on soccer, I think we might have won a World Cup. But, obviously, what pays the paycheck? They're only allowed 2 foreign players when I was playing. For me, people said, why don't you go to Europe? There were only 2 foreign players allowed in Italy. And I'd have to compete with a German, a Brazilian. Now it's a free market. Back then there was no free market. So imagine the young kid now that's like a 6 foot, like Cooper, like a basketball player. If somebody like him, maybe it's not 6'9", but maybe 6'5", wants to play center back instead of playing, linebacker, because he can make $4 or $5 million a year. Back then when I was playing, there was no chance of that. No chance.
And that's a great point. Why are the women so much better, so much faster? Well, none of the women athletes are playing football.
None. Right. They're not playing baseball.
They're playing football.
They're playing basketball and soccer. And we're really good at basketball too.
I enjoyed the observation by Joe about saying when you have a really good team, you can just roll the ball out. Man, when I had a really good football team, I would just, after every play in practice, I would just, good job, guys. But it gets really hard when you take over a team that was 1-19 the 2 previous years. Then you have work to do, and you have a lot of coaching. You have a lot of coaching to do. But to take a team that was bad and make it good, kind of like your high school team, how you're 0-10 and then you're district champs. I think it's 7-3 your senior year. To take a team that doesn't know how to win. They don't know how to work. They don't know the intensity that it takes to be a winner. And to take those kids and turn them around, that's got to be probably the most rewarding thing a coach can do.
So, yeah, I've actually experienced that in my last 5-6 years coaching club soccer, and I'm going into this without knowing what's to come. And I'm taking on teams that either, don't have that skill or the mindset or they're not quite there yet. Right. And like you're saying, it's a lot of work knowing where you have to take them. But nothing is more gratifying knowing that where you see them when you started with them as to where they are now, as to not winning any games. Now, you're taking over girls and boys teams that are winning tournaments and big tournaments and all these games. There's nothing more, special to me than that, because it feels like you made an impact on their lives and you've changed them.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Awesome. Great. All right.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I want to thank Joe Riccardi for getting you guys together and doing this, man. I want to thank him. If it wasn't for him, I would not have the life I had if it wasn't for Joe Riccardi.
He's a good man. He's a good man.
Alabama just set me on my ways. All right, thanks.
Well, I want to wish.
Roll Tide.
What's that?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Yeah, Roll Tide.
So here's the question, Paul. Here's the question. When's Alabama going to get men's soccer? I just had to get it out.
That's a good question.
Never.
That's a good question. I go see they actually here in Pensacola host the SEC women's soccer tournament.
Yeah.
So I get to go watch a little soccer, SEC soccer.
My teammate in Dallas is the head coach at Clemson. So he's invited me to come down, and Vic knows it's a running joke at the coffee shop because we went to play SU, played Clemson at SU. And he invited me down. He said, "Yeah, come down. You could be a guest of, Coach, Sweeney, Dabo, and come down. We'll, have a great time." And we haven't gone in 3 years. And my buddies are like, "Are you an idiot?"
Oh yeah, you got to go, Coach.
Listen, I want to go to a World Cup game. I don't think I'm going to. I'm old, man. I just want to watch it on TV. I love Clemson football. I think it's great. But I would just watch it on TV.
Oh, I got season tickets at Bama, and I don't go to many games, especially when I coached and did my show. I did for years. I didn't go. As people asked me last night, I think we had a little dinner party. And what was it like, to run out in front of 100,000, another 10 million on TV in Tuscaloosa? And I said, well, if you didn't never experience it, it's impossible to explain. But if you did, no explanation is necessary. So it's got to be one of those. I
can't imagine 100,000 people. That's fantastic.
Wow. Hey, thanks, guys, man. We appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you coming on the show.
Happy early birthday, Coach Fit.
Yeah, happy early birthday, Fit.
Thank you, guys.
Canada Day, July 5th is your birthday, so happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And,
Don't give me any more reason to party.
Well, hopefully I will be partying September 5th when the Italian team gets another World Cup qualifying win.
Yeah, go Italians. Go to Italians.
The Let's hope so.
Blue skies, baby. Blue skies. It's all
State Street.
Sky blue skies.
That's where my father and my grandmother raised in State Street, the Italians. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Great show.
Tell Rico I said hey.
I will.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time on Coach's Corner.
Yep, that's right. We'll do it round 2. Yeah, we'll do a round 2 with them. Awesome, man. Thanks for being here.
That
Cliff.
Was great. Great
stay
show.
Tuned for these, stay tuned for these messages. Without these great sponsors, this just wouldn't be possible. If you like the podcast, make sure you share it, like it, go to my YouTube channel, and subscribe. It's free.
Just let it play. Click and subscribe.
Have a great sports weekend, everybody. So long.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you at Hill Kelly Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola, or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
75 years of service in high-tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High-tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple pane of brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.